Interactive artwork is difficult to make. I know. I make it. Interactivity isn't just about being able to interface with the game, but it's also about feeling like it responds to you, feeling like you can engage with it. Thanks to technology and the development of digital interfaces, we're now able to create new worlds online, and the younger generation is very well equipped to engage with that and exist in a whole new context that some will never be a part of, because they can't live, breathe and be on the internet in the same way that the youth can today. Most people have played video games, but it's hard to make them and hard to know where to start. This is where I come in. My name's Freddie, and I make video games as artwork. Have been for a while now. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my new workshop, How to Make Your First Video Game. Choose Your Own Adventure. In this workshop, I'll teach your students how to make a Choose Your Own Adventure game, an interactive short story which they will write, create, code and make all by themselves. I will teach your students how to make a very simple text-based adventure in a software called Twine. Twine is a very simple but deep software that will allow you to expansively make your own story. As I say, this workshop is aimed at absolute beginners, so people with no coding knowledge, no knowledge of video games let alone, can jump straight in and we can make something in less than 2 days. Now I don't want you to think I've just pulled this software out of my arse. This software is actually an industry standard in the video games industry, what most writers are expected to be able to know and use to create compelling narratives within video games. And additionally, I've also seen it used in the fine art world too as well. When I went to an exhibition at the ICA, I saw many games done in this exact same engine. So, let's get down to the nitty-gritty, shall we? What we're looking at here is potentially a 2 or 3 day workshop. A 2-day workshop will get you the basics of writing, constructing a narrative and then formatting it in the right way to put it into the engine. The second day will then encompass teaching you enough about the engine so that you can effectively put your story into the engine. That can be all, but you can of course go for the third day, which means that I'll have more time to reflect on their work, add details and go over some more complicated mechanics which I know, which I probably won't have time to teach them. For example, using variables to allow the story to change based on conditions you set earlier in the narrative. Or, of course, we can go for a slightly longer form approach here and we can go for a couple of 2-hour sessions weekly for a month, let's say. If, you know, obviously the schedule's looking a bit busy, so not everyone can attend or whatever. The first day is going to encompass mainly writing, narrative design, storytelling, the basics and the fundamentals of establishing a story. Now obviously the students will probably be working with understand, you know, like the inside and out, the kind of context that video games work in. So they'll understand the nuances, stereotypes and genre understandings that will be required for this. However, understanding the exact way to create a story so that it works in a game can be quite complicated. So it'll be understanding that and then making that actionable for the first day. So after a morning of mind mapping, brainstorming and idea generation and after a quick lunch break, the afternoon session will probably be something along the lines of writing the idea, writing the dialogue, the intricacies that go alongside that, and then probably some sort of testing phase where people show each other what they've written or reflect on what they've done, and I can provide some feedback here and there, all while using some examples I've given to them of previous games that I've written or you can find around the video game industry to show them how it's done. The second day will be mainly the technical side of things. This will be essentially expanding on what we've already talked about, which is learning the basics of, you know, using the kind of basic hyperlink format to move from one idea to the next. And then it'll be things like, you know, if we have time, going over things like variables, things that can change in the game, conditions, name input options, exclamation, you know. There's a lot to go over basically. But the first session, well, the beginning half of the day will essentially just be teaching them the basics, giving an example, showing them working examples, allowing them to play with already pre-written examples as well. Then, the afternoon will be taking what they've already written and formatted, putting it into the engine and then bug testing, essentially, making sure that it works, because this is their first time doing it. I'm not expecting them to do it perfectly the first time. Now, that would be the 2-day option, where I show them how the engine works and show them how to write, and at the end of it they'll have a fairly basic understanding of how the engine works and what they could be writing. A 3rd day would allow for any ironing out of problems that may have come up. I want people to come away from this with actual usable knowledge, rather than just a kind of, here's how you turn the welder on, have fun, Jimmy. So I would want to take that day to kind of reflect on what they've already written, have some kind of critiquing sessions on what they've produced, provide some feedback, provide some support where required, and yeah, just looking critically at the work and how they could use it at a later date. Anyway, thanks. That's kind of what I'm proposing. This should come with a bullet point kind of list of exactly what I can produce and do, and what the workshop will entail below, or wherever I've sent it, might not be below. A bit of shameless plugging. Here's some of the video games that I've made. You'll find a link following this as well to my video game page. I don't just make choose your own adventure games. I can also make full working 2D games. However, preface this, all of this stuff is completely beginner friendly. None of this is complicated, and I use engines that are for normal people that don't know and don't want to know coding. I want to provide an access point to people who, like me, wanted to make video games but don't have the know-how or haven't spent years learning coding. So I can also do workshops that will teach you how to make this. If that's something you're interested in, I can definitely help you with that too. Hit me up and ask for that if you want it. Anyway, thank you and peace out.